Lord Friendly episode 97 with myself and Alice Bell. How are you?
Alright.
How is your National Video Game Day going?
It's going fantastically. I've played 0 video games.
Yes, because apparently this is a thing that we learned about just 5 minutes ago.
Literally
Today is
5
National
minutes ago, yeah.
Video Game Day.
Why?
Is it a holiday, National Video Game Day?
Why?
I don't know. The government just declares certain days for certain
Things.
genres. I'm not sure. Yeah, it's apparently today is video games' turn. I mean, it means nothing because it's not like we get the day off, right?
No,
So.
I wish. Although I never get a holiday off, do I? Never.
No. And it's also National Video Game Day. We don't know which nation. Maybe
Wait, is
it's
it
like,
national or international?
I think it said national. So we don't know which nation. It could very well be Madagascar for all we know that is celebrating this.
Oh, that's boring.
I'm assuming it's the US though, right? I'm assuming when something is trending on Twitter that says National Video Game Day because we're so
Oh, you're an arse.
America-centric here. Yeah, exactly. We're so fucking entitled. We assume it's going to be America's time to celebrate video games.
I gotta celebrate everything.
Could very well be Barbados. Barbados may really love video games over there in the Caribbean, even though they have tropical beaches to hang out in.
Who knows?
Yes. What would you do on a National Video Game Day?
I'm assuming that the thing you're meant to do is play video games.
Are you sure you're not meant to talk about them? Like in a podcast form? Because then we would be doing it right.
Yeah, but we don't do anything
style.
right, do we, Chris? Let's face it.
You are drinking vodka, you said, which is
Yes.
very on brand for what we're going to talk about later, Stranger Things.
Yeah, it's flavored vodka though.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
It's
you mentioned that last week.
it
It was like
is-
strawberry or some kind of
No,
fruity shit.
I got through the strawberry one. This is a different one.
Oh,
This is the Echo Falls Summer Fruits vodka, and I think it's better than the strawberry one that I had because it actually tastes of vodka.
I mean, you're an equal opportunity vodka drinker, a communist even. So there you go. You don't discriminate. Everybody gets a taste.
But this is great.
Yeah, but how are you? How's life?
I think my guinea pig's pregnant.
Oh, wow. Are you going to have a guinea pig baby shower?
Well, you see, the thing is, pregnancy in guinea pigs is really hard to tell. Like, my guinea pig, Azura, she started gaining weight, but it's only around her middle section. And so I was very gently feeling at her stomach yesterday. And I'm pretty sure I felt a head.
Oh, God, that's creepy sounding.
So I think she's got 2 baby pigs in there. And we're just going to have to ride it out.
You're going to be a grandparent.
I never wanted this responsibility.
It's okay. You can get all the love while the parents have to deal with all the shit and the angry children. You just be the cool grandma.
Unfortunately, I do not have the space to keep more than one of the baby guinea pigs.
So it's off with its head, I guess.
No! Don't be so vile!
You're like Ned Stark. You have to carry out the sentence yourself. Overpopulation is a serious thing. It's just, yeah.
No, I'm going to give them to my boyfriend's auntie, so
There you
it's
go.
going to be fine.
You're like China. You have this one-child policy. You're very restrictive.
I have 2 childs. I have 2 children.
Oh, so what you're saying is you make exceptions for you, but not for Azura.
Well, Azura's still having the baby.
True.
Babies. But I just can't... Because, so this is the thing. So I need to sex the baby guinea pigs if they do appear very early on. Because male guinea pigs reach sexual maturity within 3 weeks.
Oh, that's fast.
And they are weaned within 3 weeks as well. And the first thing that male guinea pigs do when they reach sexual maturity, if there's a female nearby, is they start to fuck.
Yeah. You know what the solution for that is?
VR porn?
Yes. You hook up that guinea pig to VR porn and it'll be fine.
It's like an automatic castration.
Yes. It's like that Futurama video. It's not gonna have any time for real guinea pigs. Even though it could have sex anytime it wants with a real guinea pig, it's just gonna be lost in VR.
Well, you know what? I'd invest, honestly, because I don't think I can deal with any more pregnant guinea pigs.
Yeah. I mean,
It's scary. So yeah, I just have to hope that I have 2 male guinea pigs, because then they can be rehoused together and they'll be perfectly fine. And they'll be all good. And I've got to sex them properly as well.
Yes. That sounds wrong, but okay.
It's what you call it. When a guinea pig has a litter, you got to sex him.
Yeah.
So you look at their genitals, And with little girls, it should look like a Y. And with little boys, it should look like an X. And if you press on the X, then a penis comes out.
Yeah, I think that's how it worked in the erotic video game I was playing. Press X for penis. We had a pretty wild weekend here. We had 2 earthquakes in the 7 magnitude.
Yeah, I saw that. How bad was it on your end?
It was for about 20 or 30 seconds, the ground was shaking, which is kind of disconcerting because you never know if things are going to escalate. You know, it's kind of like there's an argument at a party with 2 drunk people, and you never know if it's going to escalate into fisticuffs or something. It's going to get really bad, or if it's going to settle down. And then luckily in this case it kind of settled down, but apparently it's just because of the distance, because I live in Orange County and LA County is the same, because the earthquake epicenter was a couple 100 miles north. So even though by magnitude standards it was way more damaging than some of the big earthquakes that happened recently, like Loma Prieta or Northridge. I think Loma Prieta was a 6.9, so I guess it wasn't way more, but it was higher. It should have been more damaging, but because it was in a desert and there weren't many people there, so fortunately, because it wasn't in an urban area, there wasn't a lot of casualties or deaths. I mean, I don't want to say fortunately because, there's people who live there, I'm sure, and I'm sure they were, but it's not as many people.
It's not as if it was in the center of LA.
Yeah. It's kind of like a trolley problem in a way. Have you ever heard of the trolley problem?
Yeah.
Where there's 5 people on a track, and let's say the train is headed toward those 5 people, and you could switch the track and it'll run over one person instead. And it's an ethics problem. Do you kill the one person to spare the 5, or do you just leave it alone and say, not my problem? So in this case, it went to the one person, so you're okay. But yeah, it's kind of weird to say that, hey, things turned out great when somebody died. I don't know if anybody died, but somebody might have died. Which is an interesting problem for AI, maybe not for humans, but if you ever think about AI having to make a decision, if we're having to have self-driving cars in the future, they're going to have to make these kind of decisions, right?
Isn't that already in their programming to minimize damage? They will always take the run over one guy.
Yeah, but how do we know that one guy isn't some kind of amazing famous scientist?
We don't. It's just making an objective decision.
Because that one guy, what if he was Batman?
Well, we're fucked.
What if the other 5 guys were comprised of Joker, Mr. Freeze, and I don't know, name me 3 other villains. Catwoman. And 2 random hobos.
Yeah.
Do you kill the 5 or the 1?
All.
You kill the 5, right? You spare Batman.
Yeah.
Right? But I guess that's why the legal system is what it is, because most of these decisions aren't that easy. All men are not created equal. Some people are obviously more important than others, but who's going to judge that, right? We can't judge if person A is more important than person B. You just can't do it. So it's easier to say everyone is equal. It's easier to just run over Batman, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, the computer isn't taking into account moral factors, and that's what's both a blessing and a curse about it, in that it's entirely objective.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Whoever programs it has to make it that way, right? It has to be objective and say all people are equal, because you don't want it to make those kind of judgments, right?
Yeah.
Because it's completely subjective. Who's to say that person A is worth more than person B? See, I'm going to say you are worth more than, let's say, PewDiePie. I'm always going to run over PewDiePie. But that is my opinion, right? That is my moral judgment. Who's to say I am right? So there you go. The computer cannot do that. We can't let it do that. So neither can we do that in law. So that's why we have the thing where all men are created equal. Makes sense, right?
And an objective AI would ensure that everyone is treated equally, whether they're the Joker or Batman.
Yes, exactly. Sucks for you, Batman. Sucks for the people of Gotham City, but that's the way it has to be. There's no better system. But anyways, in this case, the earthquake did not kill Batman. More like Nightwing or something. But hopefully everyone in Ridgecrest is okay.
I just find it so bizarre to think that earthquakes are deemed as being quite a regular risk to your everyday life.
I wouldn't call it
well,
regular.
Not like a regular risk, but it's something that you have to be aware of.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas in the UK, I can remember we had a piss weak earthquake and nobody gave a shit. It was awful for us, but we had one piss weak earthquake when I was, I think, 11, 12 years old.
What is a piss week?
It was nothing compared to the scale of the earthquakes that
Oh,
you have.
oh, WEAK. I was thinking WEEK.
No,
and I'm like, what
like
is
week.
there a week? Is it like National Video Game Day? Is it like a piss week? What do you do the other 51 weeks?
Hold it in.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'm following you. I'm back on track. Piss week earthquake.
But
Go on.
But that caused such an uproar, and yeah, a couple of houses fell down, but it wasn't shit in the grand scheme of earthquake damage. It was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Or like when we have storms and really high wind speeds. Oh no, Storm Edna's in town, and look at the damage she's caused. She knocked over some wheelie bins. Now, that is one thing to be grateful for here in the UK, is that we don't tend to have the massive environmental hazards that you have in other countries. Apart from flooding.
And you haven't had a Viking raid in like 2 centuries, so you're good. It's safe.
Come on, mate. The Vikings stopped raiding a long, long time ago. They integrated.
That's true. But yeah, it's kind of scary, but at the same time, it's not scary in that like you're kind of used to them, but you never know when it's gonna be the big one.
One, yeah.
Yes. So I mean, that was interesting, I guess.
Wasn't it something that you learnt about in schools? How to deal
Earthquakes?
with an earthquake, yeah.
Yeah, they usually just fucking duck and cover. That's the answer for everything. Like atomic bombs, earthquakes. I mean, earthquakes, it kind of makes sense because you want to get under something sturdy. So if there's falling objects, you get under the table. So yeah.
You've got some sort of protection.
Yeah. I mean, I just lay in bed. I was too lazy to fucking leave. If the ceiling fan fell on me, so be it. But it's just, yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? Because you don't know how long it's going to last. Had I known it was going to be 30, 40 seconds, I might have moved. But I was like, it'll be over in a couple seconds. It'll be over in the next couple seconds. And then it just wouldn't end. So it was, it's one of those things.
Oh, dear. But yeah, earthquakes, they're just so... I think this is one of the interesting things about speaking to somebody who does live on the other side of the world. Is just like, things that seem relatively commonplace to you are really bizarre rarities over here.
Like clouds. Oh, wait, that's the opposite.
Yeah, we have so many clouds over here.
Yes, you have the clouds, we don't have the
And
clouds.
you've never seen one in your life.
No.
Have you ever seen snow, Chris?
No, it's like Bigfoot. Snow and Bigfoot, the peas in the pod. But yes, it is different. I mean, we speak the same language, more or less. I mean, there are plenty of things that we have in common, but there's things that are going to make people stand out. I mean, in transplants over here in LA and Southern California, they find earthquakes to be just like, they're like shaking afterwards, it's just like, because they've never experienced them before. It's just it's something that
Whereas everyone's still going about their Walmart and doing the day-to-day.
Yeah, exactly. The rest of the people who are used to it kind of just like, But at the same time, it's probably the wrong reaction to have. The ant people are probably the ones who are going to die first. Like people like me who are just sitting there doing nothing except eating our hamburgers and watching porn all day. Speaking of which.
VR.
Yes, I bought a Valve Index, which is the newest VR system. It comes with these brand new controllers. Like, that's the major step in this latest VR system. Because I know VR has been out for a while.
Yeah.
There's been Oculus. There's been HTC Vive. But this thing has controllers with finger tracking. So it actually tracks, not all that well, mind you, but it tracks the movement of your fingers. So I was playing the demo, which is Aperture Science demo, if you're familiar with Portal. It's very, very Portal-y. It has the same humor, the same fun. And the entire demo is like using your hands. So you can actually pick things up. You can tear open packages using your hands. It's really cool. You can play rock, paper, scissors, and you can even flip people off, supposedly.
Well, that's all you really need.
Yes. All you need in any game. I mean, it should be as common as like swinging an axe in Skyrim, flipping people off. Developers get on it. Put it in all your gameplay.
I'm pretty sure it was a massive feature of GTA 5.
The problem of the finger tracking doesn't always work all that well. Like maybe it's where my hands are positioned, but I kept trying to flip off this robot like over and over again, and every time I would do the shaka symbol instead in game. And it was super frustrating because the machine kept making fun of me. Even when we were playing rock, paper, scissors, like I kept trying to do a scissor thing, and instead, again, I was doing some weird hand fucking signal, like a shaka symbol again, and the robot kept making fun of me. So, but yeah, it's super cool if they ever get that fixed. And the other thing I like is that there's a tactile sensation that you get whenever you like touch something. So if you do a high five, it buzzes your hand. What else can you do? Anything that you touch, it's like nice to like feel something, which I think something that is lacking in VR is just having that sensation, that because otherwise it's kind of immersion breaking. If you touch something and you don't
and
feel
there's
anything,
nothing there.
Yeah. Or if something touches you, like if we were talking about is VR porn, if something touches you and it's like there's no sensation there.
You can't just bring up VR porn without us specifically mentioning the context of it. Which was my immediate thought when I heard that, it's got tactile sensation, is bet somebody's wanked off to it.
Wait, using the controller though? I mean, you can't grip your dick. I mean, I think for women
you can't
it could work,
grip your dick. Kris, sweetheart, do you know how to masturbate? Have you figured this out for yourself yet, sweetheart? Because
No, explain it to me, Alice.
Right, so generally what you need to do is you need to grab your member and tug, tug, tug. And then that will give you a tactile sensation in your penis.
No, but I think like you can't really do anything with the controllers. So I think you would need, I mean, if we're talking about like VR sex, I think you would need is some kind of like bodysuit, right? That fit over yourself. So you could be naked without being naked.
Yeah, so a bodysuit that has loads of little wires and pressure points in it so that if somebody's touching your leg, you can feel it touching your leg. That sort of thing. Contracts around that area.
Yeah.
This is getting into some Black Mirror shit.
I, for science, look it up, and as I mentioned to you on Discord, there is a field dedicated to this stuff. It's called teledildonics. Teledildonics.
Don't try saying that whilst drunk.
It has the word dildo in it. That's what's important.
Dildo.
But apparently they have porn sites that are teledildonic synchronized, I guess is what they call it. I'm not sure if that's the correct term, but apparently they have machines, like either like a dildo or like a fleshlight, like fucking machine that is synced to the porn videos in question. So you just like have to hook it up via Bluetooth and like link it up, and it will simulate sort of the motion or whatever is happening on the video. So we are sort of getting there to where you can fuck robots, but I still think it's a long way from happening because the whole suit stuff hasn't been figured out yet. I mean, they have these haptic synapse suits, I think they're called, but I don't know if they're kind of bulky and they're not really fully tested. So the suit part isn't really there yet. So we're still a long way. So humanity does have about like 30 or 40 years left before we're completely doomed. I mean, it's still not going to compare to normal sex. So
I mean, it could be a striking vipers type scenario.
It could very well be. I mean, but I still think we're a long way away because it's just without the sensation of touch, it's incredibly hollow. I mean, we already know like masturbation isn't the most. It's already emotionally hollow, but it's also kind of like physically hollow in a VR sense. So it's a long ways.
I mean, technology is progressing at a fantastic pace, so never say never.
But again, we don't want to eliminate the human race. We still need to have babies, so it is important for people to find partners.
Reproducing.
Yes, it is important. Otherwise, the aliens are going to attack us, just like in Futurama, and we're all going to be doomed. It's just, don't date robots. That's the thing.
Wasn't planning on.
You might reconsider if you got a VR thing, because man, that shit is real. Like, it is like lifelike to be in like any kind of VR space, whether you're like playing a game or in like Google, what's it called? Google Earth. Yeah, it is kind of cool. It's missing those sensations. I don't think smell is that important, but touch is definitely important, I think, for VR.
See, we used to have a thing called the National Video Game Arcade in Nottingham, and they had this VR headset, and I can't remember which one it was, But the queue to try that out was absolutely ridiculous. And this was only about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
It's just so bizarre to think about technology progressing so much in just 3 or 4 years that you can now, at a reasonably affordable price, get your own VR headset.
Yeah, I mean, in, what was it, 1980, we were still playing Atari. So the fact that we've moved from Atari to what we have, like, these photorealistic video games itself is insane. But I definitely think, like, VR is going to be the next thing. It's just how quickly can it catch up, I guess, in terms of just replicating real life, in terms of touch, in terms of space. That's the other thing, like, you know, being able to walk around, being ambulatory in the game. That's another big thing. Those are the two major hurdles, and once it clears those hurdles, then normal games are fucked, I'd say. Because yeah, that and the weight of the headset. You probably don't want a headset on your head that is like fucking burning your skull.
Yeah.
It does get kind of hot after a few hours.
I can't imagine that it has its own internal cooling system going off there.
Yeah, exactly. And the more cooling you have to put in, the bulkier it would get. So there's definitely hurdles, but the main two would be space and touch. So, but yeah, in the same way a Lover's Lab kind of pushes the limits of Skyrim scripting, we might see the same for porn and VR. Anyways, any other VR or porn related things we want to talk about?
I mean, I don't have my finger on the pulse of pornography, honestly, so...
Teledildonics. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting field.
You just like saying it, don't you? Teledildonics.
Still got a long way to
Just
go.
chat.
But if you think about like where we are since the 80s, it's kind of interesting how quickly we might get there. And speaking of the 80s, Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
You like how
Nice
I set up that segue?
That was a fantastic segue. So, new Stranger Things dropped, and we were going to do it 2 episodes by 2 episodes, but Chris has already watched it all.
Yeah, I binge everything. It's just the way I am. It's like, you give me a bag of chips, I'm gonna eat the whole thing. You give me a jar of hot dogs, which is apparently something you have in England.
No, Chris, please don't. It's worse because it comes in cans as well. You can get tinned hot dogs.
To be fair, they just put it in like plastic packaging
Brine.
here, so it's not much different. A jar might be more fancy. I don't know.
Oh no, they're disgusting,
Yeah.
Chris.
They look disgusting. It's just weird. It was jarring to see the jar. But anyways, I binge Stranger Things because that's just the way I roll. I binge everything. So
And I'm halfway through.
So I will try and not spoil things. I'll just react to what you say. So what did you think of the first 4 episodes?
I think it's a stronger season than the second season.
Yeah, I definitely feel that way.
That's my first impression of it. And it gives me faith for Netflix sequels. Like, I've mentioned this multiple times before. First series of Netflix shows tend to be great. Second series, not so much. It's got the dynamics in it that we love from the first season. It's got a hint of mystery to it that's not instantly all being revealed. You've got your multifaceted characters, so I think Hopper's a very good example.
Mm-hmm.
Because Hopper is a prime time dick. And I would go as far to say in some scenes he does come across as being very abusive, but still comes across as somebody who you want to root for, which is a very difficult line to tread.
Yeah. I definitely got low-key kind of pissed off when he's first trying to like separate Elle and Mike. Being an overprotective father. I mean, they weren't really doing it. They're just like kissing, and it was like all really innocent. I guess he doesn't know that. He's like sitting in his couch. But then he did the one thing you do not do on Stranger Things, which is doubt Joyce Byers when she mentioned the magnets. It's been 3 seasons. Listen to Joyce Byers.
Joyce knows everything.
Yes, do not dismiss her crazy theories, okay? How many times do we have to go through this before people start taking Joyce Byers seriously? Now, I get if she had moved to a different town and started her shtick, that's one thing, but we've been through this. He should know better. But yeah, that kind of... He was definitely getting on my nerves a little bit early on. But as he was supposed to, it's intentional. You need somebody to doubt Joyce. Otherwise, there's no conflict, right?
I'm really enjoying the framing of the mall as well.
I like that too.
like, it is very 80s, like, teenager, like, teenage movie type thing. But it gives such a excellent location to have all these characters be, but not all meet up and intersect at the same time.
Yeah, and it's also something that is relevant to the story, in that it's this like conglomerate, and conglomerates are like evil, and so it's this like corporate force that has taken over the town, and it kind of mirrors what the Upside Down is doing, or what the Russians are doing. It all comes together. But I do like the 80s aspect of mall culture. I mean, in season 2 we had video game arcades, and in season 3 we have mall culture, which was big in the 80s. Was it the same for you? Because like when I grew up, like going to the mall was like a big thing. It was like the place to hang out. Does mall culture still exist, or is that no longer a thing?
I wouldn't say that it existed in where I live.
Okay.
Because I was raised in a pretty small town. We didn't have a big shopping centre. We had shopping arcades, which are just very small internal shopping centres, but you don't have like the food court and things like that. The biggest shopping mall that we had was Meadow Hall.
Okay.
But that was only slightly outside of Sheffield city centre.
Is Meadow Hall the place to hang out? Is that where all the cool kids?
No, it wasn't. No, we'd go to Sheffield city centre. We'd go to Meadow Hall to go and do some shopping, and then we'd hang out in the city centre instead. Or like Nottingham is a really weird example of this, because we have 2 shopping centres in the centre of town, very close together. And one of them, the nice one, has all like the food court and things like that, but it's just not the same.
Yeah.
Like, you don't say, oh, I'm going to the Vic Centre to hang out today. You say, no, I'm going to town.
Is that more of a UK thing, or is it just a generational thing?
From all the cities that I've visited in the UK, I'd say that it's just a UK thing in general. Like, as bad as shopping centres are for your high street and things like that, there's something very enduring about the city centres. And the thing is, we're not as big as most American towns. Like, a lot of our cities would often be classed as being the same size as towns over in the US. So even if we do have these big grand malls, they're tiny in comparison to what you can get in the US.
No.
So they can't take all the business.
Yeah.
And so we do still have our traditional open-air shopping districts, which is something that I think was kind of taken away and grounded away a lot more by the malls. You see, we have our high street retailers. So our high street retailers for clothes, for example, you've got New Look, you've got H&M, you've got River Island. And you have them out in the streets anyway. If you have them in the shopping centre, that's a bonus. But yeah, we don't kind of have mall culture as it was back then.
Yeah, I don't even think we have that here now. I mean, granted, I'm old, so I don't know what the fucking kids are into.
You don't hang out in the mall.
No, but I can't imagine that would be the cool place to go now. I feel like the opposite would be true in 2019 in Hawkins. I think more people would hang out at the trendy sort of mom and pop areas where like the real food is, and not go to like the food court where you get the sort of fake, I guess, almost. Like if you wanted like Chinese food, you wouldn't go to that Chinese food place at the food court. You would go to Chinatown and get some authentic shit. Like I think people are kind of more knowledgeable now into 2019 so where they can go to these like local smaller hangouts and get quote unquote more real experiences than you would get at a shopping mall, because malls tend to cater to the most average of American desires and wants. I don't know. I feel like it's something that might be generational as well, in that it's only something that you would see in the 1980s, and why it fits with Stranger Things. It kind of makes me nostalgic for that. But yeah. I did like Starcourt, the mall, as a narrative beat, and just a, like you said, a physical point, a physical hub for everybody to kind of connect to. So
it's kind of like a dark reflection of what a mall's intended purpose was.
Yeah. I mean, it fits, and we get Russians. Russians is so 80s. They kind of hinted at it in season 2, where it was like kind of the joke bad guy.
Yeah.
In season 3, we actually get real Russians. We have even a Russian Terminator introduced in I think episode 3. Is he there? Episode 4. The guy in the bike. The guy who hits Hopper in the head.
Yeah, that was episode 3, yeah.
Okay. Wait, have you seen his face yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay, then we won't talk about Russian Dervish.
Does he look very distinctly Russian, or is it Billy?
He looks very distinctly Schwarzenegger-esh. He's Skinny Arnold, I like to call him.
Scarnold.
Scarnold, there you go. But yeah, there's a lot of like 80s beats, which is always a thing with Stranger Things. But character-wise, how are you liking some of the new relationships that we're getting in this? We've got Max and Elle.
I'm really enjoying Max and Elle. I think part of it is me being starved to see, given that the last thing that I properly watched through was Game of Thrones. I think a lot of it is me having been starved for positive female interaction on a TV screen.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones didn't do that since season 3 with Sansa and Marjorie, you know?
Yeah, and I really liked the sort of friendship that, especially because Elle's been so closeted, she hasn't really experienced any relationships beyond Mike. And so just for her to have a friend
who she isn't romantically involved with.
They can do stuff together that doesn't have to involve boys.
Yeah.
It's just them together growing and fostering a friendship. It's just nice.
Yeah, it's just nice. It's just nice to see some positive female interaction in a TV show, because it feels like a rarity. And it especially feels like a rarity because if you do include positive female interaction, it's often leading to that show being described as pandering to SJW culture and things like that. Like, it's not the leading cause, but people think that shows that include those kind of interactions are naturally Stewart leaning.
Yeah, I mean, did it pass the Bechdel test? I mean, they did talk about Mike a lot.
They talked about Wonder Woman.
That's true. They did have a lot of interactions that didn't have to do with just, getting over Mike and stuff like that. Whereas I think Mike and Lucas's sort of stuff, it was always more about Elle, how to get back with Elle. And
it's the reverse.
Yeah, it was a nice reversal.
Best way to get over sexism. Just flip it on its head. Reverse sexism isn't a thing. It is totally a thing.
We also had a new character in Robin, the ice cream.
I love her.
She's great.
She's fantastic.
Did you realize that she is Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke's
Yes.
kid? She looks just like Uma. It's well, maybe not just like, but she kind of has those facial features that it's really interesting. I didn't realize it until later on, but yeah.
I just think she's a really fun character to watch. Like, she blends in so seamlessly with the dynamic between Dustin and Steve.
Yeah.
That's like she was meant to be there.
She's a great compliment for Steve because Steve is just like the arrogant, like douchey high school guy, and then even though he's not really, he's much more than that. But it's just as a stereotype. And then she's more of the goth, sassy person who's sort of just like
beyond mainstream.
But yeah, she's like the critic of the mainstream culture. Steve is kind of like the mainstream culture thing, and then she's sort of like the antithesis of that. So it's a nice back and forth that they have. So I kind of like that.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying their dynamic. It's really fun. She's a really fun character to be introduced. Mrs. Wheeler is also getting a slightly bigger role, and she's actually had a chance to play the mum for Nancy.
Yeah, they're humanizing her, whereas before I think she was a bit of
caricature.
A caricature of 80s mothers. There's still plenty of caricatures in the show. There's the newspaper people who mock Nancy. There is
one of them looks like Boris Johnson, aka probably our future Prime Minister, and it disgusts me every time that he's on the show.
He's probably used Boris Johnson as inspiration for the hair and the attitude.
It's awful and disgusting, and I hate it.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of typical of like the 80s authority figure. Paul Gleason is like famous for that. He plays the principal in Breakfast Club. He also played the chief in Die Hard. Like the 80s authorities figure who is like an asshole and is always like fucking things up for the teenagers who really know what's up. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a trope. And you still have plenty of those in the mayor. You have the newspaper editors. But Mike's mother, I mean, they're definitely giving her more of a human touch, which is really cool. It's like,
yeah,
it's nice to subvert expectations in that way.
No, I just think everything is coming together really nicely so far. Like, one thing that I noticed in the last episode is that, not to get too spoilery, but there was this moment when Nancy and Jonathan were confronted by a character who had, for want of a better word, changed.
Mm-hmm.
And to display kind of the offness of the scene, they were aiming at Dutch angles. They framed the entirety of the scene with these really weird, odd, unusual camera angles, which kind of signalled that something is not right. And I don't think that's a technique that the show's ever used before.
Yeah, it did feel like the color.
No, Dutch angles.
Oh, Dutch angles. Okay, because the Discord.
Basically, when
Discord
things are being framed really weirdly.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure, but I think the color was almost different too. I have to go back and look, but the feeling I got was that it was sweltering in there, and when things are hot, it's kind of uncomfortable. It just felt uncomfortable to watch, and maybe as the angles, the color, I'm not sure, but there was something about that scene that sort of delivered exactly what it felt like to be in that room for Nancy. So
I think that's something that's always really easy to overlook with TV shows and things, is that it's not just the writing, it's not just the acting, the direction that you take, and not just the direction but the framing of scenes is really important, and I'd say just as important in some cases, into getting across certain emotions.
Yeah, I mean, and cinematography in general, it's just because it's a visual medium, being able to convey things that you wouldn't be able to in print. I mean, you would be able to, but it would just be telling instead of showing. But I like it. I do feel like at some point it's almost like torture what the writers are putting these kids through, just to go through this shit over and over again. So I do feel a sense of, like, I don't want to say fatigue, because I still enjoyed it and still binging it, and I'm still gonna binge season 4, but I do feel like at some point, man, these poor kids just keep going through this
shit. They go through so much.
How could they ever come out of this as normal? It's just, they're gonna be in therapy for a long time. In season 4, they need to get a new set of kids, I think. I just don't want
No, they can't do that. They can't.
I don't want to put these kids through this trauma again. It's too much. It's just too much. You might feel that way by the end. I don't know.
Oh no. Now I'm going to spend all night watching the rest of it.
I mean, no, it's nothing spoilery. It's just, you know how it's the same as season 1, season 2. It's just, it's traumatic to go through something like this. And to go through it 3 times, I don't know, man. To go through it 4 times, that's going to be crazy. So, I don't know. I think at some point, maybe you want to reboot. And with this whole Russian thing, they did mention that there were other walls in other places, right?
Yeah.
That Hawkins was special, but it's just there's other entry points for the Mind Flayer to get in. So maybe we can have a new set of kids. Plus, these kids are getting older. Are we going to age with them? Are we going to go to the 90s? You know, it's one of those things. Oh.
I'm just excited to see how things go.
Yeah. It's a good season. It's a good season. You like it. I think, like, because every season sort of follows the same pattern, they could still have the same show just in a different place. Like Fargo does this. Fargo has every season follow a similar pattern with similar characters and like certain beats, but they set it in a different time with different characters every time, and it always keeps things fresh and interesting. So I think for season 4, I kind of want to see that, but I don't know. You can tell me what you think once the season ends, because there's going to be like certain things that could lead to the same characters being back, and there's certain things that may not. It's just it's up in the air. Who knows? Maybe Netflix might cancel it, because Netflix has gone on record stating that their model works best when a show is like 2 or 3 seasons long, I think.
Yeah.
In terms of like making money, they make the most money if they just produce like 2 seasons and then cancel it. So that might be the way they're going. It's just capitalism affecting story narratives.
No, this is something that I'll have to look into for next week's podcast. But I'm pretty sure something did come out about it, about Netflix's piloting model and things. So I'll look it up and we'll discuss it more next week, because it's a long read from what I can recall.
Didn't you say that last week shows were better off, like 2 seasons, and then the third season is a bit of a buzz killer? It starts to go off the rails at that point.
Yeah, the third season is the turning point for most TV shows, I think.
Yeah, I think Japan had this figured out a while ago, because a lot of their animes go 26 episodes and then that's it. And 26 episodes is 13 hours, 30 minutes each, right?
Yeah.
And 13 hours is about 2 seasons. So it might be the happy medium. It might be the point where it's good to stop. I don't know. Let's see.
scientifically figured out. I suppose it changes between audience and audience.
So watch those next 4 episodes, and we'll talk about that next week.
And it will be a spoiler episode.
Yes. We can spoil everything about the show, our hopes and dreams.
So join us next week when we discuss Netflix's marketing strategy for piloting pilots and things.
Yes. Alice will likely be a grandmother by then, and we'll have named her new grandchildren.
Oh god, that makes it sound scary. See you later, folks.
Okay.
Hello and good day. Oh, fucking hell, that was loud.
Keep talking.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello. Sound test. Woo.
That was a great song. I think we have a hit jingle on our hands.
Hello.
What kind of... It sounds like almost like a Muppet or something. I don't know. Singing.
Sound like the
It's like the sound a hand would make with a Muppet over it.
I mean, people do say that I'm a bit of a Muppet, so...